want to just start at the beginning with how did this script come to you and what were your initial thoughts?
The script came to me. I've been very fortunate. I loved, there was like a clip of, I wish I could remember who it was. I think it was an actor from The Office. And he was like, everyone's auditioning right now. And I was like, everyone is auditioning right now. But this script it was an offer. And it came, man, okay, if we shot it last year, it had to be the year before. So what was that, 2023? What day is it? So it came in 2023. In the fall, Ned had seen Jurassic. And I just read it and I was like, this is crazy. I was like, this is wild. And I got to the part, it's not a spoiler here, this is great. I got to the part where, you think it's the end of Sarah's life. And I was like, not doing this movie. And then I was like, all right, let me keep reading. I'll keep reading. And then, she came back. So I said yes.
Yeah. Wait, tell me a little bit about like that being the difference between you saying yes and no.
Oh, the untimely demise?
Yes. The resurrection.
It wasn't even a matter of screen time. You know what I mean? Like I was in the Harder They Fall for one scene. It's not a screen time issue. It was just story. It was just like not satisfying. It felt like a deflation. And so when you get to that point, you're just like, oh, it's no longer good. Because you're invested in Sarah because she's really, truly the heart of the movie in so many respects. And that's, how it's constructed. And so at the time I was like, oh, this isn't, okay. It's not what I thought it was. And then it was.
And tell me a little bit about that being an offer versus an audition, especially in like a couple years ago, like a very tense time for actors in general.
Yes, when has it not been a tense time? I feel like I'm like 20 years in,
so
and I had like 2 years of it not being a tense time, and the remaining 18 years have been a tense and challenging time. It's just hard being an actor. But for me, I think, there's no difference. There's no distinction in my mind. The work will be the work. I like to say that if in an ideal world for me as an actor, if there's evidence that I can do the job already on tape, then I don't know why you're asking a performer to, if there's like really beautiful take of you, being a rom-com queen, then I don't know why you would ask someone to audition to be another, version of that. But I try not to repeat characters or performances or I try to keep that variety. So I truly don't mind auditioning. I like to, be like, this is my offering. I don't need you to be surprised. So it's good for both of us,
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so you get the script, you decide you're going to do it because
Yes.
Sarah comes back. What are the initial conversations that you have with Ned or like even like for yourself? What are you immediately trying to bring off the page?
I think because even in structure, it's a genre film. And my interest in genre is and will always be like the exploration of human psychology. And in this instance, I was really, I kind of honed in on the truth of the history of it, because it's very easy to go like, oh, now she's no longer enslaved, so everything's fine. She came into this bag of money. And in my kind of initial conversations with Ned, I'm like, yeah, but you're still informed by that history. And she's a black woman in 1849, like everything is dangerous. You know what I mean? Disease is dangerous. That white man is dangerous. That black man we cut out of the movie is dangerous. Like everything, the horses are dangerous. Like everything, there's danger at every turn. And so balancing, what he saw in me in Jurassic, which is like, oh, DeWanda's like super capable. She's a badass. She can carry her own. She's witty. Balancing that, what he was interested in, with the humanity and the truth of what it meant to be a black female body in that time. That's what I saw, and it's also the opportunity I saw, even in the midst of this wild movie.
Wait, I don't mean to focus on the wrong part of that, but who got cut from the movie?
He was very sweet. It slowed the movie down a little bit. It was like more of a comedic beat, and so it kind of like ended up being more deflating than funny.
Okay, fair enough. And then what other prep did you do with Ned directly or with Guy directly, like just to get into the atmosphere of this movie? I feel like it's so immersive.
There's a book called Blood Meridian. And if you're like familiar with it, you'll notice a lot of overlap. So much of my prep was immersing myself in the danger of that time and in the specificity of what it meant to be, trying to navigate the wild, wild west, which was wild. I was like, so they were paying people to scalpel other people, and people were so understandably desperate and money hungry that they would just be like, yeah, this person's native. I mean, unfathomable, So, a lot of my prep was just getting into the historical mind frame.
Yeah, I think,
unfortunately,
I think a lot of us also we learned about that in school and such, but you don't get a sense of how truly violent it was. Like night to night, they're facing different threats.
Yes.
Which is it's so crazy to see.
It's crazy, and it's also, unfortunately, because this country has a short-term memory. You're just like, that was not long ago. Yeah. There has been violence on American soil. We do not need to go back to that.
So much of this film's atmosphere comes from the setting.
Mm-hmm.
You filmed in New Mexico,
yes.
I believe, in the Southwest. Tell me about just these rich exteriors, these night shoots, this. That has to be very, very intense as a performer.
Very intense. A lot of bats outside. Yeah, I think, you just really kind of have to be a game actor. There was one moment, I think it was like Bill Pullman, he came in towards the end of production, and it might have been like his third day, and he just looks at me, and then he looks at Guy, and he looks at me, and he was like, y'all don't have any stand-ins. And this is the end of production. And I look at Guy, and I was like, oh, yeah, we don't have any stand-ins. Didn't even cross my mind. Didn't cross my mind once. Did not cross my mind once. It was just, it's impossible to describe. Like one of the most challenging things about making this movie for me was that the wind, sun, and dust was always in my eyes, And I was like, okay. It was like the second day, and I was like, I don't know if I can make this movie. I'm embarrassed to say, because I am one of those I'll suffer for my art. I'm definitely not proud of it.
Well, because I've also noticed that actors, especially in your close coverage, you don't blink a lot. You don't get to do that.
Thank you for saying that. That was something I got when I was on Jurassic. I blinked so much for that same reason. There was a lot of fog machining. And Colin Trevorrow said to me, I probably didn't blink in this because of that. Colin Trevorrow was like, DeWanda, I had to paint out so much of your blinking in this movie. You cost Universal so much money from blinking. And I was like, but I'm worth it?
Yes, you are.
Maybe.
But a lesson to everyone here, blink less than you would like to.
Than you would like to.
If you're close up on camera.
Very uncomfortable.
At any point. So this is a film, it is a Western. There's not as many typical chases or gunfights or stuff as you'd expect, but it's still very physical. Mm-hmm. And I would love to hear about kind of the challenges or maybe the rewards of doing that.
I'm always looking for that. I'm always going, if you send me an action comedy, but I don't get to be active or funny, I'm like, trash. Why is this? What do you want from me? You don't need me. So I always have. I've always gravitated more towards kind of physically demanding work. And this one was interesting because we shot in New Mexico, that altitude was crazy. So it was one of those projects where you're like, you think you're fit, and then you get there and you're like, oh, should I have been training underwater? I don't know how I was supposed to prepare for this, but here I am. And it would just be I'd be lifting at the gym before work, and I'd be like, I am winded. So those running sequences, even some of the horseback riding stuff, it was wild. I would do it again, though. obviously.
Well, and I'm thinking also again about like a lot of the night shoots and like
The
there's
stunt.
scenes where yeah
The
you
stunt
need to have
choreo.
like a body on top of you.
Yes,
There's so much
that
VFX
man was
with,
huge.
Like,
He was enormous.
there's like the blood and the gore. It's quite violent in
was
those
wild.
moments too.
Yeah. And then you also have like actors, we have these like dumb things to think of. Like I was, when we were deciding what she was wearing in that moment, like what she would strip down to, I also had to like, while I'm doing the fight sequences and while I'm doing these stunts, I was like, I cannot rip this slip. You know what I mean? I'm like, I can't rip this slip. We have one. There's no doubles. This is an independent film. So I'm like kind of crawling, but also like doing a plank, you know?
You were kind of doing a plank.
Gotta be courteous. Courteous is contagious.
All right, we've mentioned Bill Pullman. We've
Yes.
mentioned a couple of your co-stars, maybe, but I would love to hear more about working with Guy specifically. You have
Okay.
so much screen time together, and then also with this incredible young actor who's playing your daughter.
Yes, Emily Ford. Yeah. So Guy Pearce, I am very happy to report to everybody in this room that he is delightful. He's delightful. He's just a wonderful person. I always find, too, I have a hypothesis that actors who like to play villains are probably good guys because they have nothing to hide. You know, I'm married to one. Alano plays a mean villain, and he is not a villain. He is very nice. So Guy, you know, we met there. Like we didn't have a chance really to meet before we got there, but I think it was very clear super early on that we were similar performers. You know, his process is a little more external on set. Like a lot of, like I said, I do a lot of like pre-production work, and I'm not a heavy talker when I get to set. So he had a lot more like external processing and like questions for Ned that served me. I'm not faulting it because I'm like, that was a good question. Ask him another. And, you know, just super immersive. Like no ornamentation, no, not even a hint of a green only M&Ms, you know? Like there were no divas on this set. Like the most difficult performers were the horses, and it was mine. My horse had an attitude, and it cracked me up. It was like my horse was like my inner monologue, you know?
Wait, what did they do?
It was just like if that horse didn't want to move, the horse was not going to move. Like if the horse was like, I'm on my break. It was like the horse was smoking a cigarette and was like, I'm on my break. You want to give me another 10 minutes? It was wonderful. I love those horses. So yeah, Guy was just, sorry, back to Guy. Guy was extraordinary to work with. It was a breeze and a delight, and you know, the kind of actor, like we had chances to hang out outside of set, so we did. And he's just a lovely, actual human being. You know, both of us are the kind of actors where we like go to work and then we go home. I don't do a lot of the extracurricular things. I don't care about that stuff. I like to go to work and go back to the forest. I live in the Northeast, and I like to go to work and go home. And Guy's the same way. It's a beautiful sun. And then Emily Ford. I was talking a little bit about Emily outside. I love working with young performers because they're always prepared, always in a good mood.
Because they're in the mindset of like doing homework every day.
Yes.
They're actually
Very disciplined.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're like, it's like yourself when you were a kid, you know? A lot of actors are like that, right? So yeah, it was, I think she's brilliant. Her parents are lovely. And it was interesting because it's not like Ned was giving her nooks and cranny direction. So much of child performers' work, I would say, comes from the parents. It came from Megan, most likely, her mom. And it wasn't even enough to be like, oh, you know, like, don't smile, Emily, because that's all Ned would say. Ned would be like, don't smile, Emily. There was just something, I mean, hopefully you saw it on screen, but you were like, there was something more behind the, like, just don't smile. It was very haunting.
Yeah.
And she knew it. Like, she would troll us, and she's 4 at the time. Like, she would go around set and be like, yeah, I'm doing my little scary thing. And I was like, yes, you little children of the corn looking terror.
Wait, okay, speaking of Children of the Corn, were there any inspirations that you like took for this movie, or that Ned gave you guys specifically? You mentioned that book earlier.
I think it was just the book. There haven't been a lot of black women in westerns. So there's that. I mean, there's not much. And to your point, there's not a whole lot of overlap between our film and traditional westerns in that sense. So I think, like, I watched his first film for a touch of his tone and his weird humor. Such a weird sense of humor. I love it. But yeah, outside of that.
Well, and to that end, how did you incorporate some of the more supernatural stuff into your performance? Because even if it's there on the page or through
Right.
the VFX or the edit, like, it's not necessarily there for you when you're putting it there, committing it to film.
I think all I was thinking about with Sarah was the magnitude of her faith and her belief and her conviction. Like, I don't think there's anything elementally that I could, do in terms of like injecting a performance with anything of the supernatural, especially not without like being in Emily's position, for example. If anything, there's that beat in the film, and I was playing around a little bit. There were some takes when Sarah felt a little more possessed when she is with her daughter in the water. I'll say it like that. I don't know if this is recorded. So I was playing around with that a little bit. But by and large, I was mostly just really preoccupied with being as honest and truthful as I could possibly be.
It sounds like this was a very comprehensive, very intense shoot in good ways. But I'm curious, what was like the biggest challenge for you, other than maybe the sand and wind?
Other than the sand and the wind, I don't know if it was on. I feel like most of my challenges as an actor come before I get to the job. Like, most of them are like, black girl things, the deal, trying to figure out this one in particular. It was pushed a number of times, and I love this script so much that I was really having to play linebacker. And it wasn't even, here's what's wild, because I'm gonna be real, it wasn't even that I was like so busy, right? It just so happened that the 2 times that they pushed it, there was like another opportunity happening during both of those times. So it almost felt like both of them were like, recurring guest TV show things. So it kind of felt like are you gonna go for the security, or are you gonna go for the faith? That's how it felt. Both times I was like, am I going for the like bird in the hand, as they say? Or, am I going for this thing that that I'm like magnetized to? So yeah, that's the choice I made. Yeah.
I mean, if I can probe a little further, like, as an actor, like, how do you parse that gut instinct to distinguish between those two?
Well, that one, in that instance, I continue foolishly. I should sell out at some point. But I continue to choose the righteous thing. I continue to choose the thing that actually lights me up, that I actually want to do, and that is not the transactional choice. There is nothing wrong with the transactional choice. People have bills, they got rents, they got mortgage, they got kids. There is not anything wrong at all whatsoever with taking an acting job for money. I just want to be super clear. I have just always, it's like I made a quiet pact with myself and anyone who's like an audience member who like watches my work and keeps showing up to watch my work, that if they show up to watch my work, I will do my part. And I feel like I can only do my part if my full heart is in it. Does that make sense?
Yes, very much.
So that is, that's the commitment I made. And here I am still making that commitment. Now in 10 years, when I'm on your favorite procedural, do not judge me.
I do. We're running out of time. I do want to acknowledge, I know everyone has seen the film here, but still just like a trigger warning for our audience. Like this film does contain discussions and depictions of sexual assault. But what really stood out to me was that you are not in the scene, the
I
flashback
am not in that
for
scene.
that.
No, I'm not.
And you don't have to be.
I was not in that scene, and I did not have to be.
I was very impressed by that just as a viewer. I was like, I cannot think of a time that this has come up where they have depicted it like, frankly, so ethically, like by the performers. I don't know if you were part of that discussion or if you have any comments about that, but it definitely stood out to me.
I found it extraordinarily thoughtful because it's not necessarily specified on the page, but I think it was one of the first days I got on set. And they made it super clear. They're like, oh, you don't even, I remember that night because we filmed the moment where Bender shows up to Sarah's door and she like shows up with the shotgun. We shot that, and then they were like, all right, DeWanda, good night. I was like, great, enjoy. Shooting that terrible scene. And not only that, but they very much could have like traumatized the background performer by asking them to perform that scene. And it was like the co-writer. He like stepped in to do it because we were just like, we also don't want to ask someone else to like be in that position, like unless they're like, you audition for it, So yeah, it was like even more thoughtful.
Genuinely like shocked in a good way by that. I do think we have to wrap up, but like on a lighter note for the final question, do you have just like a favorite scene or moment from shooting this? I know it's been now like what, a year or so.
It's been a year.
Yeah.
I remember all. Favorite scene or moment? Oh, something that cracked me up. So
Still cracking her up.
Still cracks me up. Edward, Jack, sweet Jack Alcott, who Alano worked with my husband. My husband's name is Alano, if I just randomly say his name. So Jack worked with Alano on Dexter Resurrection, and anybody, fun fact, who is 6 years or younger than me, I think you're a child, all right? Anybody 6 years or younger than me, I automatically become auntie, mentor, mama DeWanda. I don't know why, it's just who I am. So Jack is like my fake son anyway. Like we spent so much time on Dexter. It's a hard job, the whole bit. I wasn't in that show. Anyway, so I love Jack from the beginning. We get to set. He has to ride that bicycle, y'all. And it just reminded me, like, sometimes, have you all heard that famous story about, like, Law and Order when they're like, can you please stop writing these scenes by the river in the winter? And then they invited the writers to set, and suddenly they got more scenes in the car. It was like that. I just imagine Ned writing this, like, oh, and then he rides this bike. That baby fell off that bike so many times. The shot that finally ended up in the movie is a miracle, okay? It took way too long, the poor stunt choreographer. And then every other scene you see it, the reason why it's like, oh, like that framing or whatever is because it's just being carried by a wagon. And that just cracks me up. It was just one of those choices, and they were so committed to the choice. And I was like, just choose a different bike. Please just choose a different bike. Oh, it was so funny. So dumb.
I'm picturing it. All right, well, thank you so much, DeWanda. Thank you all for being here and watching Killing Faith.
Thank you.